Hi everybody, this is Laura, City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I have a layout that I made using my September My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. I have quite a few videos that I just did not have enough time to edit and voice over when the kits were current, so I'm trying to catch up on those videos. In September, the limited edition kit featured the collection by Prima called My Suite. It was designed by Frank Garcia, and it's a very pretty floral collection. It has a lot of pinks and greens in it. If you've watched my channel, you may have noticed that I love to use thin strips of pattern paper, and I love to line them all up next to each other in different ways. I love the way that brings a lot of the different patterns and colors of the collection together. And then I also like the way it can use up some of the scraps, some of the branding strips that you may have after making some other projects. So for this layout, I'm using a diagonal piece of paper, and I already figured out exactly the dimensions that I needed this strip of paper to be so that it would fit diagonally on this piece of white cardstock. I guess I made it a little bit bigger than I wanted to, so I trimmed that back when I was done. And then I inked the edges with some Distress Oxide in Rustic Wilderness and a Dauber. Sometimes I will ink each strip, but on this layout, I just inked around the outside of the strip. I plan to use some mixed media on the background of the layout, so I'm just putting some light pencil lines to show where the diagonal of pattern paper is going to be. Then I took out some sprays that are in my stash, and I'm trialing them on the center of the layout where I know you won't be able to see the colors because they'll be covered up by the pattern paper. The paper has already been gessoed. I added some Liquitex white gesso to a thick piece of white cardstock. And now I'm adding some sprays. I added several different colors. The lightest color that's a yellowish green is called Fairy Clovers. I also use a slightly darker color, and that's called Limelight. And then that darker color green, that is called Golden Olive. I made sure that the sprays had dried thoroughly. Then I used some water and I sprinkled that over the top, and then I dabbed up the water with a paper towel, and that lifts up a little bit of the color that's on the background, and it creates a really cool effect that I just love to do. I hold that strip of pattern paper over the layout several times. That helps me to be able to tell if I like the way the sprays are looking. And then once I try it out, I continue adding some more layers of color. And then I use the paper towel to lift up any extra color that's on the background. Off camera, I dry the background with my heat tool just to make sure that it's thoroughly dry before I add the next layer of color. I was thinking that I could use a little bit more color since I know that I'm going to be putting a lot of embellishments on the pattern paper, and I know that they'll spill over into the background. So I slightly expanded the area that the sprays are covering, and then I just repeat the same process of sprinkling some water on top and adding some splatters. Now I'm going to be adding some texture to the background. I'm using some Crafter's Workshop modeling paste, and I mix that with some white acrylic paint to make sure that the modeling paste doesn't have a gray tint to it. I'm using the stencil that was in this month's kit. I just love that pattern of this stencil. I believe this is a Vicky Bouton stencil, and I'm adding some modeling paste following that diagonal, and I put the modeling paste on both sides of where the pattern paper is going to be. The background is not going to be a very busy, very loud mixed media background. I wanted to add a hint of color to the background, but I don't want the background to overpower the rest of the elements on the layout. So although I'm putting a lot of time into it, it's a subtle addition to the layout and it's not super bold. I added some dark green splatters to the background, and I also add some gold splatters, and this is the Heidi Swap Color Shine in gold, and I really like the addition of these little flecks of gold around the background. And once I have the gold highlights down, I was thinking that some white highlights might look nice as well, so I'm using some watered down white acrylic paint, and I sprinkle that on the background as well. And then I add a few more splatters of the darkest green spray to the background, and then the background is finally complete. I'm ready to attach the diagonal strip to the background, so I add a lot of ATG adhesive, and then I put it in place. This is the photo that I'm going to be using for this layout. This is a 4 by 6 inch photo. This is of my older daughter Danielle when we were at the New York Botanical Gardens. This photo was taken in an area of the garden where they had all different types of roses, all different sizes and colors. It was quite beautiful. I'm using some fun foam to pop up the photo. In order to attach the photo to the background, I'm adding some ATG adhesive to the foam, and then I place the photo on the background and press it down. There was some beautiful chipboard in this month's kit. I'm going to be using the heart and the title that says beauty. I'm using some adhesive. It's in this little dauber bottle, and then once I put down some adhesive, I'm adding some embossing powder. And now I'm going to heat emboss this heart. I use scissors to hold the heart in place, and then I use my heat tool and it melts the embossing powder. And then once I finish with the heart, I do the same thing to the word beauty. I put the adhesive on, and then I add the embossing powder, and then I heat emboss. And I think that those turned out so pretty. Now I'm going to begin to embellish my layout. I'm using some chipboard pieces. The piece to the left of the photo, that's from the chipboard sheet. I'm also using some of the beautiful dimensional flowers that came in September's kit. I add the embossed pieces right underneath the photo. To the right side of the layout, you could see that I fussy cut out a whole bunch of flowers from the pattern papers in this collection. I absolutely love these flowers, and I think that it's nice to work in some flowers that are fussy cut along with the dimensional flowers. I think that it's a good combination. I like to keep the larger dimensional flowers at the center of the clusters and then add the fussy cut or the die cut flowers around the outside of the clusters. In addition to adding the fussy cut flowers to the larger clusters in the center of the layout, I'm also going to put some in the upper left-hand corner and the lower right-hand corner. And I arrange those flowers so that they go along the corners of the layout. I put the larger flowers right in the corners, and then I have some smaller flowers on either side of the larger flowers, and it almost creates like a photo corner for the layout. I haven't been to the botanical gardens in so many years, and I felt bad that I hadn't taken my children there when it's really not that far away from my home. And it was such an enjoyable trip. There were so many places to take photographs. Of course, I love that, but there was just so many different kinds of plants and flowers, and then there was even some artwork there, and it was just a really enjoyable day. I loved it. I definitely don't have much of a green thumb, so I really enjoy seeing the work of people who do. The last touches that I add to the clusters are these very small pieces. They're mainly flower buds and small leaves, and I like the way these look around the outside of the clusters, so I'm just putting those last bits into place. Right now I have one of the dimensional flowers below the title, but then I later decided that it was a little bit too much to have flowers in so many different areas, so I ended up removing the flower, and then I'm going to move the heart underneath the title, and I'll do that in a little bit. I needed to put some fun foam behind that piece of chipboard because it wasn't sitting correctly on the page. It was resting on the photo, but it wasn't high enough to rest on the photo and be even, so I added some foam to that. And then because the flower underneath it was resting on the piece of chipboard, I had to add some foam behind that as well. Now I'm using some heavy-duty gel medium, and this is a great adhesive for items like these, like the dimensional flowers. It holds things down really well. So I use that adhesive for the larger flowers, and I continue to use the ATG gun for the paper flowers. So I continued around the layout till everything was attached down. I used a little bit of foam underneath the largest flowers in those corner clusters. Now I'm going to embellish this embossed heart. I add some of the heavy duty gel medium to it, and then I'm using this strand of pearls that is from my creative scrapbook, and I'm winding those pearls in a heart shape. The gel medium is a strong adhesive, so once that adhesive dries, those pearls will be stuck down there quite well. I cut that strand of pearls short. I can save that and use it on another project. And I just position the pearls a little bit more before the adhesive dries. Now I'm using a heart that's from the die cut pack, and I'm popping that up on a little bit of foam. I'm trying to find something to put on that smaller heart. I didn't find just the right thing yet. And the heart looks a little messy until that gel medium dries, and then it dries clear, so you won't be able to see the white glue that's around the pearls. Each month in the limited edition kit, we get 3 packs of dimensional flowers. This time we got some really pretty tiny accent flowers. I picked out the pink ones, and right now I'm sprinkling those around the layout. There were a couple of little spots around the layout that I thought looked a little empty. I'm filling those in with some of the fussy cut flowers. Then I was thinking that I wanted to work on the title. The title is resting on the photo, and that means that the bottom of the title has to be supported. So I'm putting some foam. I'm just going to be putting it on the bottom of the title so that it will sit correctly with the top sitting on the photo and the bottom popped up a little bit. And to pop that up, I use some very thin pieces of fun foam. This is where I decided that there was a little bit too much going on the bottom of the layout. So I removed the flower that was underneath the title and I placed the heart right underneath the word beauty. And I like the way that heart fits right in there. Now I'm using my very favorite punch, my EK Success Scalloped Photo Corner Punch. And I used some green pattern paper and I punched out a photo corner for each of the 4 corners of the photo. I'm inking the edges with a little bit of Distress Oxide. It seems like whatever I had left on my dauber, that's what I put on these photo corners. And now I'm attaching them down to the photo. I added a few more fussy cut pieces, and then I took off those pink flowers. I was thinking that there was just so much pink on the layout that there was really no need for additional pink flowers. I really wanted to put something in the center of the heart, so I found this little flat back pearl in my stash, so I glued that down to the die cut heart. I love adding additional leaves to my layouts, so for this layout, I'm using some Pinkfresh Studio die cuts. I embossed the die cuts with the same gold embossing powder that I used on the title and the heart, and I'm spreading those die cuts all around the layout. And in case you're interested, I'll put the information about this Pinkfresh Studio die that I used to make these die cuts in the description box. Now, I didn't really like those pink flowers on the layout, but there were also green flowers that were the same. They were just green. And I like those much better on the layout because although there was green on the layout, there wasn't so much green. So I thought that those would be a better accent to the page. Now, I'm going to add some pearls to the layout. And I'm just going to add a couple of pearls to the clusters of flowers. I'm not going to add a ton. Sometimes I add a lot. I'm trying not to go crazy this time. I add 3 different sizes. I have a fairly large pearl, and then I have a medium-sized pearl, and I have some tiny ones. And the larger the pearl, the less I use. I think I just use 3 of the largest size, and then I use quite a few of the smallest size. And the larger pearls are closer to the photo, and then the smaller pearls are closer to the outside of the clusters. And that's not a hard, fast rule that has to be followed exactly, but I do try to keep that in mind as I'm adding pearls to the layout. I'm adding some pearls to the title now. I don't know that I initially planned on adding as many pearls as I ended up adding, but I ended up covering this entire chipboard piece with these very, very small pearls. I really like the way that turned out. You can still see the gold behind the pearls, but now there's a lot of texture and some nice white pearls on the title. And then it doesn't look too bad on camera, but those pink pearls were a little bit too dark for the rest of the layout. So I took the dark pink pearls off of the photo corners, and I substituted these light pink pearls. And that was the final touch to the layout, and here are some close-ups. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I hope that you got some ideas. I want to say thank you to everybody who watches my videos and subscribes and likes, and a special thank you to those of you who leave comments. They mean so much to me, and I wanted to say thank you so much. I hope that you'll take a look in the description box. There's a link to the page where you can purchase the current My Creative Scrapbook limited edition and the other kits that are available as well if you're interested. I hope that everybody has a fantastic day, and I will see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.